Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. As I already mentioned, we will do shamatha meditation. The inner quietude. That is all you have to do. That is meditation. So don't have some exotic ideas about meditation, okay? You are not going to levitate or any such thing. Okay? And you need not also. You need not. Those who levitate have springs in their seats. Those seats have springs, and you do that, it will push you up. You don't need all that. Just allow the mind to settle down. It takes time. The mind doesn't know how to settle down. The mind, like a monkey, it takes time to settle down. Once it settles down, life goes on. And as life goes on, as things happen, you respond. The natural thing happens naturally. That is how life is. Like you wake up, it is morning, you wake up. And it is time to take a bath, you take a bath. And it is breakfast time, some food you eat. Like that life goes on. And if somebody is friendly with you, you respond with love. And if somebody is hostile, you keep a distance away from him. These things happen naturally. You need not plan anything. But the precondition is the mind must be settled. So that is the purpose of shamatha meditation. You are supposed to sit upright in meditation. Not like a usual sofa sitting is not valid. It is not good for health also. So you sit upright, you stretch well, and then you sit relaxed and all that. We will do it tomorrow morning. Now a few questions. How can I practice this bhakti in karma yoga? It is coming. Tomorrow verses, once this verse is finished, most of it is finished anyway. Jnatum drashtuncha Tattvena praveshtuncha parantapa. Those tumunnantas are 3 tumun. Tum. So we will finish it, and then comes matkarma krit, matparamaha. Therefore we will come to that. Can you give a practical example? Yeah, will come. The content of the class. Would like to understand Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's bhakti towards Mother Kali. You see, you should not go by stories. You should entirely depend upon what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has taught. That is what is called Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The Gospel in its original form, which is there in 2 volumes, the English version. Originally it was in Bengali version. Some Mahendranath Gupta, some gentleman recorded it, and the English version was provided in 2 volumes. It is so much full of the details, like Paramahamsa comes and all the students come, they sit, they discuss the weather, this, that, like that. So many extraneous details are presented in that as part of the journal. It's a journal. And so all those details will be quite not understood well by non-Bengali people. It becomes a bit difficult to appreciate all that. For Bengali people it comes well. Therefore and also they are extraneous details, and you have to wait for the real teaching to come forth. Therefore this difficulty was noticed by Swami Nikhilananda of New York Ramakrishna Vedanta Center. And he has abridged the Gospel. So you have the abridged Gospel, very beautiful book. In that what Sri Ramakrishna said about devotion, you should go by that. You should go by that. He was a Purohit in a Kali temple to begin with. Later they removed him, if I remember correctly. They could not handle him or whatever, they removed him. And he did not protest. He walked out. That was the end of his relation with the temple. And afterwards, he is the temple. His heart is the temple. So you have to go by what he says. You see, what I noticed when I was reading that gospel, some of the best descriptions of Brahman, Nirguna versus Saguna, are to be found in Sri Ramakrishna's gospel. The distinction between Nirguna and Saguna. For example, today I made a comment. In Mandukya, I was discussing Nirguna Parabrahma. Whereas in Gita, in this context, I am talking of the Saguna Brahma. And therefore, in Saguna, so we don't right away dismiss the whole world as an appearance and all that. That is a different way of looking at things. So this is a ladder, a stepping stone for that. Therefore, these nuances are a bit difficult to appreciate. Even I felt like a revealing thing when I read the gospel long time back. So this Saguna Brahma, Nirguna Brahma, this distinction was with us. We are reading it here and there. But when I went through Sri Ramakrishna's that gospel, first to few pages, like 5-10 pages, so it was so revealing, the distinction between Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma. Therefore, you don't find Kali this and that. Okay? What is Kali? Kala is time. The Godhead which transcends Kala, time, the timeless reality, who possesses time, who owns time, means who transcends time. That is Kali. Okay? You can worship in the universal mother aspect, that is Saguna. Or you can worship in the Nirguna, where the gender has no meaning. Therefore, I suggest you take that gospel and read it. Don't bother about all these stories and all that. You see, he was devoted to Mother Kali. That is the Bengali culture. I was devoted to Lord Rama. That is the culture in Telangana and Andhra area. It doesn't make a difference. It is all one and the same. Don't think that everybody has his own shop. Rama has one shop, Kali has another shop. This Dukan thinking, you have to give it up. What is called Rama, it is called Kali, it is called Christ, it is called God. It is the same thing. People give different names to it. We'll come to that. Therefore, I am not going to comment upon the stories of Kali and all that, right? I just ignore that. Had I come across anywhere in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, then I would have commented, but I never came across of any such thing in the Gospel itself. He doesn't say you worship Kali. He doesn't say like that. He was a Purohit in Kali temple for a while. And those people could not handle him and they dismissed him, if I remember correctly. So, let me know more about Vishwarupa Darshanam. Yeah. The questions should not be essay questions. There should be objective questions, bit questions. Yes or no answer questions. Not 15-minute question like. Write an essay not exceeding 5 pages on Vishwarupa Darshanam. You should not put that kind of a question before me. We'll come to it. Tomorrow morning it is still coming. Because the verse I am not yet done with it. So at that time it will come. Just have a little patience. A student initially writes on a slate. It's an example. I have not read completely, but I am taking some precautions before I see what is coming. It is an example, okay? And you can take the spirit of the example. Later on develops due to schools and universities. That is not the point. Don't go into schools and universities. All that, don't pull the example in multiple. And mother and father also contribute. Sometimes the neighbor also contribute. Don't start all that. Just the boy, he is connected with his slate and his pencil. I know any number of these orthodox people who carry their God with them. The God is kept in a small box, like we people carry, these pawn people carry pawn, and cigarette people carry cigarette, whereas God worshipping people carry their God. They can find a God elsewhere. After all, you are dealing with an image. No, my God is superior to your God. Like two people are worshipping Shiva. That is called Banam. That's some name. It's a stone with a line on it. The line is the outcome of some metallic ions present in the stone. The stone has some metal in it. Metal in the ionic form, not the metal in the elemental form. Like the stone has some iron deposit in it, some ferrous or ferric. Then it will have a red line. And therefore, a linga or a bana with a red line is superior to a bana with a less red line or no red line. Means what? You are talking about iron deposit or whatever. वो इतना ही बात है. But they have their own imagination because this has a line that doesn't have. Therefore, this is superior God than that God, to that God. Now, what is superiority of one God to the other? But that is how they believe. Even the big acharyas, they say, no, don't worship that God, you worship this God. The God that you are worshipping, you hand it over in some temple, I will give you a new God, worship that. So they do all this. Just total disregard of the basic principles of Vedanta. So that is what I was saying. Therefore, that is the school student, I can write only on my slate. If you give a paper, I will not be able to write. Only on slate I can write. Some people are like that. You see, he knows the verse, the boy knows the verse, but the boy can recite it only when he is sitting in the lap of the father. Then only he can recite, otherwise he cannot recite. Therefore the father said, come, you sit here, now you recite. He prompts, then he recites. He looks down with a shyness and then recites. He recites well. But if you ask him to stand and recite, he will not be able to do it. That is the child. So don't be so childish about worship of God. That is what I was saying. You should be able to see God everywhere, in everything. There is a thing called God consciousness. I will come to that. I will describe it. How to develop then from idol, name worship to higher power? You say idol is a symbol. Idol is not the thing. Idol, another name for idol is symbol or image. Image is not the thing. Image is not the thing. You have to understand a few things. Word is not the thing. Simply you say word, it is not the thing. Suppose you say tree, the word is tree, that is not tree. Tree is outside, go and touch it. You say tree, that is not the tree. Similarly, you have a photograph, that is not the thing, that is not the person. So these are some basic things, So image is not the thing. Image can bring the thing into your consciousness. Then it has served a purpose. Otherwise, image itself is not the thing. You have to understand that. So while worshipping the idol, you have to get all these things in mind. You have to keep all these things in mind. So, even name is also like that. When I chant the name Sri Rama, it is not S-R-I-R-A-M-A for me. I go beyond the spelling. The spelling is you pronounce that way, S-R-I-R-A-M-A. That is the spelling, and that is how you pronounce. But even as I am pronouncing, even before the pronunciation is completed, I have already transcended it. I am already merged in the divine bliss of Lord Rama. That is what is called bhakti. Otherwise it becomes a mechanical chant. Now, you want to say mechanical chant also has some value? Yes, it has some value. Instead of saying some useless things, this is better. That is how they say. Otherwise, he will be sitting in the club and fighting with somebody. Instead of that, he is doing this. So you want to justify it that way? So that is the value you want to give to it? You are demeaning it, I would say. It is a lot bigger than that. It is not just a small technique or a small trick to keep an unruly guy quiet for a while. Is that what religion is? It should be a lot more than that. So how to develop this bhakti and all? We'll come to that. How to cultivate. That is how I ended the second class. I'll discuss it. One way of developing it is sitting in the class for 10 days. That is one way. Okay? And all your doubts will get cleared. If you sit in the class, all the doubts will be cleared. This difference between God and Godhead, the word, it is one and the same. It is one and the same. But the word God has an undesirable connotation, at least for many people. At least for some people or many people. That he is a gentleman sitting in the heaven and he is a male. Not only a male, he seems to be a male chauvinist also. Really, he lies down and so if he does a few things. So, therefore, he seems to be very feudalistic, this God. So all that connotation comes into the mind. That's why you avoid it. Suppose you say Godhead, assuming that you know the word, it is a single word, not Godhead. It is nothing to do with the head. It is the bhavarthaka word, the word which connotes a male gentleman. Take that and convert it into an abstract word, into an abstract noun. Now it is abstract. It is neither male nor female. It is not a person or any such thing. It's a principle. It's a tattvam. That is what we are coming to. So drashtum jnatuncha tattvena. The tattva. So to make it into a tattva, once you made it into a tattva, now you cannot. That's why I was using the whole day, I was using, at least in the second class, I was saying divinity, divine bliss. I was saying like that. I was carefully moving away from any personality ideas. I am not giving any sense of a person being discussed. Not one time I talked about God as a person. So that is the difference between God and Godhead. But if you say, when we say God, that is the divinity, in that sense we are using the word God, then I am okay with it. You can use like that. Many people use like that. Like when Christ said in Bible, I have my being and motion or movement in God. That is what he said. I have my being in God. He doesn't mean that God is a gentleman and he is sitting in the lap of that gentleman. He doesn't mean it that way. My movement also in God means he talks of all-pervading divinity. In that sense he used the word God. That is exactly what he said. That is very valid. I am not saying anything against such usage of the word. But later day people, like if you go to Vatican, even now, for them, God is a gentleman sitting there. And therefore, keeping them in mind, you may want to use the word Godhead. Even for us, it is like that. When you say Vishnu, do you mean the all-pervading reality? That is how Shankara means it. Vishnu. But you mean Mr. Vishnu? Mostly people mean Mr. Vishnu. Shiva is Mr. Shiva, not Shiva. Shiva is the awareness absolute. That is the Shiva. That is your essential nature. That is the Shiva. So the people don't mean that way. They mean Mr. Shiva. Everything is Mr. So this Mr. Mrs. thing it is. So to avoid that, we use the word Godhead. Relationship between bhakti and jnanam. My understanding is that these are synonyms. They are not synonyms. The word synonym has a particular meaning. Like in Sanskrit, marjalaha, bidalaha, they are synonyms. Both mean cat. Marjalaha. Look at the Sanskrit English dictionary. Cat. Bidalaha. Cat. They are synonyms. Okay. Not bhakti and jnanam. They are not synonyms. Bhakti is devotion. Jnanam is knowledge. They are not synonyms. They are interrelated words. They are very closely related to each other. You have to say like that. Anyway, so yes, they are very closely related to each other. Bhakti, well understood, is jnanam. Jnanam, very well apprehended or very well felt, not apprehended, very well felt, very well experienced, if you will. If you have a problem with that word, then put some other word in its place. Jnanam, which is very well experienced, is bhakti. So like Shivoham. When I say Shivoham, there is a sense of wonder in my heart. There is a sense of amazement in my heart. I am not saying it from the head, it is said from the heart. That Shivoham is jnanam, but now it became bhakti. Because that is what I feel in the depth of my soul, my being. What you feel in the depths of your being, in the core of your being, what you feel, that is bhakti. And bhakti, very well understood, is jnanam. So they are interrelated. They are very closely related. Shankara makes no distinction between the two. I mean, they are not two separate departments, like physics department and chemistry department. Not like that. That's why there is a verse in Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. There, bhakti as the means to jnanam. It is presented, bhakti as the means to jnanam. And in Bhagavatam there is an expression, Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. The bhakti which is born out of bhakti. Means one bhakti is the means bhakti, the other bhakti is the end bhakti, means and the end. That is called para bhakti. The end bhakti is called para bhakti. The means bhakti is bhakti. So you practice the bhakti, it takes you to the bhakti which is supreme. That supreme devotion, it is called jnanam. There is no difference between the two. There is an article, a book written by Swami Vivekananda. Its name is The Supreme Devotion. That is the name of the book in English. If you read it, you are reading jnanam or you are reading bhakti, you will not be able to tell apart. It is all jnanam into bhakti, bhakti into jnanam. They are very closely interrelated. Chit is an epiphenomenon of matter, brain. This idea I have, help me to refute it. You see, this idea, many people have it. You don't feel shy, don't feel ashamed about it. That is a thesis, it is there in the world. All Lokayatikas, the Hetuvadya people, they all subscribe to that idea, that thesis, namely, jnanam is not absolute, matter is absolute, and jnanam is a byproduct of matter. Like the grey matter, the matter which is inside the brain, it is called grey matter, because its color must be grey. So that's why it is called grey matter. So the jnanam is a product of that grey matter. That is how they look at it. Even today, the neuroscientists, their basic research is based on this premise. Namely, there is activity in the brain, all the brain's activity, it is originating from the grey matter. Therefore, brain's activity can be called jnanam. And it has its origin in grey matter. So, matter is the origin. So, matter is the basic thing, and jnanam is the epiphenomenon of that matter. These are called materialists. That is a thesis, it is there. Karl Marx was a materialist. Engels was another materialist. Lenin was not a philosopher, he is a politician who used the materialism of Karl Marx and Engels into a social movement called communism. Therefore, whereas Karl Marx and Engels were philosophers and they were materialists, that is the thesis. They have an elaborate argument and they build their philosophy on very solid foundation. Having said, you have to respect a philosophical thesis when it is presented in a very scientific way, you respect it. But then you have to dismiss it. Because matter is very gross when compared with jnanam. Jnanam is subtle. This point was discussed by Swami Vivekananda in his book. In some place he discussed it. I quote Swami Vivekananda, so people may understand that I am a Ramakrishna Mission Swami. It is possible. I don't have any qualms about quoting Vivekananda, Christ. I quote even the devil when the devil speaks the truth. As long as the devil speaks the truth, I quote it. I love it, We are in the search of truth. We are not in search of people and labels. Truth is truth, come from it. Baladapi subhashitam. A word well spoken, you can take it from a kid also. I have learned many good things from small kids without their knowledge. You can learn, like these flower selling kids are there. You can learn many things from them. You sit with them, you can learn a few things. Wonderful thing. They are very smart. The youngest small entrepreneurs of the world, they are. Very smart people, very smart kids. You cannot learn a thing or two from them. Therefore, you should have an open mind to learn. Anyway, so Swami Vivekananda considered this issue. He said, okay, this thesis is there. Now it is a contest between matter versus consciousness. This contest is there. All neurosciences, they are based on the premise that matter is the superior and consciousness is the byproduct of matter. That is how they do it. So Swami Vivekananda put forth a valid argument. He said, matter is gross, consciousness is subtle. This is one argument, not the only argument. There can be a few other arguments also. So always the gross can be the effect, it can never be the cause. Only the subtle can be the cause. Once you see the matter and consciousness and understand this much, that matter is gross when compared with consciousness, that settles the issue for good. Now consciousness being settled can only be the cause. It is not the effect of matter. And then he quotes a verse from Gita, Swami Vivekananda. He quotes to support his thesis. Even Shri Krishna says the same thing. So he quotes the verse from 8th chapter. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tantamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. So bhava is consciousness. Bhavitaha is born out of. So the body that person gets is born of the consciousness. So a jiva takes the birth of a human being. Before the jiva assumes the human body, in the consciousness of the jiva, already there is an identification with the human body. That is how the consciousness, which is imprinted by the human body idea, assumes the human body. That's why before death, whatever ideas you have, whatever things you are thinking about in your consciousness, that content of the consciousness at the last moments of life, whatever be the content of that consciousness, that will give you a body in the next birth. Body is matter originating from consciousness. Therefore, Shri Krishna also supports the view that consciousness is the origin and matter is the effect. So like this we say. So these are my arguments. Suppose you invite a Lokaitika or a Hetuvadi, he will put forward his arguments. So you have to find a way, you have to find for yourself. You should not depend upon me or somebody else for this thesis or that thesis. You should not be dependent on others for these things. You have to reflect upon it. You examine both situations and you come to a logical conclusion. No, Swamiji, you tell. I am telling you, the consciousness is the cause and the matter is the effect. Now you think about it. Does prana pratishtha change an idol? That is a belief. That is a belief, you know. People questioned this belief also. Whenever there is a belief, there is somebody who questions that belief. Both will be there. The world is like that. You cannot dictate things to the world. All the people of Rishikesh, from today onwards, you think exactly the way I dictate. You cannot do that. People have their own thought process, you know. So, therefore, you put an idol and do a ritual called prana pratishtha, which means you are instilling life into it. That is what you say. That is only, obviously it is a belief, right? You believe it and a few other people also believe it. There is always somebody who questions it, whether you may not like it. He doesn't belong to our caste. He belongs to a different caste. Caste means, all believers is a caste. He is a non-believer. He questions it. Even Swami Dayananda Saraswati, the Arya Samaj founder, questioned it. You may not like the way he questioned it. Therefore, it's a belief. You just accept it as a belief, and you are welcome to your belief. Nobody can stop a belief. You can continue with the belief. But I tell you, you want to think about it. Is there life in the idol or in the devotee's heart? Where is life? Whether idol is alive or the devotee's devotion to the idol is alive. Which is alive? So, who is great? God is great or devotee is great? Devotee is great, obviously. Because it is the devotees who make the God powerful. Right? So, this is one statement which Puja Swamiji used to make. It is said, God made man in his image. Now we say, first man makes a God and then proclaims that God made a man in his image. Like that. Therefore, you can argue either way. So I always felt, based on so many teachings of great Mahatmas, etc., that God is in the devotee's heart. And the God who is in the devotee's heart is projected onto the image. Now, the passport size photograph example is a good one. So, the young man carries the passport size photograph, he keeps it in his purse of his fiancée. And so, the love for the fiancée, the beauty of it, where is it? In the passport, in the photograph, or in his heart? So, you understand that. Now you say rose is beautiful. Where is the beauty? In the rose or in your heart? This is a bit more passport size photograph, you will readily say, because it's a piece of paper. No, love or beauty is not in the photograph, it is in the heart only. You will readily say, but I will substitute the photograph with a rose. Now you have to think about it. And then I will substitute the rose with an idol of God. So you have to move in that direction. You have to think about it. If I feel comfortable in doing japa, why dirgham for japa? Japa is not akaranta strilinga shabda. It is akaranta pumlinga, japaha. So your spelling also must be correct. Not japa. Japa gets a different meaning. Japa is the name of a flower. Japa kusuma. Whereas japaha In doing japa, all times, irrespective of ups and downs of life, is it closer to Ananya Bhava? You see, Ananya Bhakti. Bhakti is not an action. Bhakti is not an action. Japa is an action. You have to say the spirit behind the japa is bhakti. Because bhakti is not an action. If it is action, it will go into karma topic, It is something more subtle than action, more subtle. And the spirit behind the action. So you have to understand that way. Bhakti is not an action, it's not an emotion, it's not a sentiment, it is not an intellectual embellishment, it is none of those things. It is the fragrance of the soul. The soul being the awareful being, which transcends the body-mind. That is what bhakti is. Therefore, if there is love for the name of the Lord, with that love you chant the sacred name of the Lord, that becomes a very beautiful way of expressing bhakti. I had been studying this aspect of bhakti, chanting of the sacred name, etc., and then jnanam, this mulling, this contemplation or reflection. I was doing it for a decade or more than now. I don't even remember how long I was doing. I found one Mahatma who was the kingpin of Vedantins. In Jnanam, he is second to none. But at the same time, he was highlighting the chant of the sacred name of Rama. The name of the Mahatma is Swami Ramdas. He is no more. Ashram of Kerala. If you read the teachings of Swami Ramdas, they stand in par with Mandukya Upanishad or Kenopanishad. That level of teaching he has about Vedanta. And in a very, very genius way, he connects that vision of Jnanam with the chant of Rama. Then I inquired about this chant of Rama as it is practiced in Ananda Ashram under the guidance of Swami Ramdas, who is no more. His Sishyas are there. And his Shishya is Swami Muktananda. I know him personally. We meet occasionally in some place in Andhra Pradesh. So there, for them, Rama is the Nirguna Parabrahma. That is how they chant. Therefore, if you understand the divinity well, and you feel that divinity, the divine bliss you have in your heart, and it gets connected to the chant of the sacred name Rama, that is wonderful. But in such a connect, you will not have counting and all that. That is too gross. Counting number and then noting 108 finished. That is too gross for that. That connect between the divine bliss in the heart and the sacred name of Sri Rama, that is a very transcendental level connect it is. And therefore, you chant Rama name with that kind of a transcendence, you are welcome. That is how Swami Ramdas looks at it. But if it is mechanical, which it is likely to happen, it just becomes mechanical. The mala will be rotating, and now you have all kinds of superstitions about the mala, the size of the mala, what kind of seeds it should have, how many faces it should have, 3 should have, 5 it should have. All kinds of superstitions, absolute junk. If you fall into that, you don't have any connect. It becomes a very mechanical thing. And therefore, if you just disregard these mechanical things, and because bhakti is not an action, it is not mechanical in nature, and you discover the divine bliss within you, and that connects with the chant Rama, you are blessed. You please continue the chant. The number is not important. How loud you chant it is not important. You cherish that sacred name in your heart. This is what Sri Ramakrishna used to do. Sri Ramakrishna, they say Kali and all that, but he used to chant Mudita Manase, Prema Mudita Manase Kaho Rama Rama Rama. That was his popular, very favorite chant. Therefore, it is not about mala. It is about Prema Mudita Mana. So, that divine bliss must be within you, and with that divine bliss, if you connect to the chant, that kind of a connect is very valid and we love it. So, you asked a simple thing, but I have said it in a somewhat extra detail. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You wrote it correctly. I appreciate it. Satchidananda Shivoham Shivoham. That is again grammatically not correct. You should not have any contest with Panini. Satchidananda Shivoham Shivoham is not valid. You have to say Satchidananda Shivoham Shivoham. Otherwise I have to find a different meaning for it. Satchidananda you have to make into a Sambodhana, then try to fit into something. So you have to be grammatically correct also, you know. You are all students of Sanskrit, I suppose. Tell us a little bit about how power and vibrations affect others. Vibrations of mantra affect others. This is mostly a belief. But to be fair to your question, I should say, Swami Vivekananda mentioned in his complete works somewhere, in Raja Yoga book he mentioned that when you sit in the midst of nice people, sattvic people, you are likely to be influenced by that ambience. I am not sure whether he used the word vibrations. The word is not an issue. If you use the word vibrations to mean an ambience, that is fine. You can use it like that. And suppose you sit in a club where a lot of bhoga is there, enjoyment, sense pleasures are there. Naturally, if you sit in a club, though you are pure in your heart and you want to chant the sacred name, Rama, etc., the ambience is not conducive, at least in the beginning. At least in the beginning. Once the ambience has no effect upon you, you become totally independent of the surroundings. You discover your own inner being and you know how to get established in it. It just doesn't matter. You can sit in a Kallu compound, what we call, where country liquor is sold, and you can sit in their midst and yet you can be with the divinity without any interruption. But in the beginning, it is better to have, even in Gita it is said, Sattvika Desha, Sattvika Kala and Sattvika Sangha you develop. Move with Sattvik people in a place which is having a Sattvik ambience or vibrations, if you will. Don't go into sound vibrations and all that. Not in a metaphorical sense. And then Sattvika Kala also. Like morning 7 to 7:30 meditation. Why? Because it is a Sattvika Kala. And as the day becomes, as the day progresses, the Rajoguna takes over and meditation becomes, at 10 o'clock you will not be able to do meditation that well. Initially, later all these things will be unimportant. So it does have such an effect. Could there be vibrations? Why your spelling of vibrations is not proper? That E will not be there. It is not vibrations. It is simply vibrations. That E will not be there. Okay? Very beautiful handwriting, therefore spelling also must be correct. For us, language, we love language, you know. Language, literature, all that is something which we cherish. All that is important, you know. Could there be vibrations of meditation done by Swami Vivekananda in a cave still be felt, or it is just a historical place? You can still feel. In the sense that, not in the sense that some physical thing is outside, but the association is like that. Suppose you go to the Skanda Guha in Ramana Maharshi's place, where Ramana Maharshi sat a few decades back. You go and sit there. In your heart, you feel that you are sitting exactly in the place where Ramana Maharshi was sitting. And that gives a new spirit to the heart. You feel that divine bliss in you more easily. Therefore, the place, the association has some impact. It is meaningful. Elaborate on dharma, tyaga and tapas. Will do. It is coming. All of it is coming. Bhakta lakshanas. I'll be saying so many things, and some of it you may not even like. Therefore, just have some patience. We'll come to that. I have mixed up things. So this is all covered. Very good. I think I have covered everything. All questions are covered. That is a good progress. If you have any more questions, please shoot. You are saying something? No. You go ahead and say. Yeah.
Very well experienced is bhakti, and you gave example of Shivoham.
Hmm.
Have an example for bhakti well understood is Jnanam?
Yeah, Shivoham.
The same thing?
Same thing, you can look at it as bhakti. But it's a good question. And I have said Shivoham. You can even say Shri Rama, Shri Rama, Shri Rama. That is bhakti, but the Shri Rama is not different from Atma. He is the same divine bliss which Atma is. The Shankara is saying that in the same verse. That Shri Rama is bhakti well understood. Yeah. Yeah.
Chandogya Upanishad, I have read Upanishad very little bit, so I am reading little bit of Chandogya Upanishad. So that the first 5 chapters are about Upasana. So we see that most of the Upasanas are dealing with the divinities like Varuna, Indra and Agni, Prana, and they just give some phalams. That this is the phalam, you will not be hungry, you will have all the wealth and all that. So I'm just wondering, where is the concept of that love that is missing in the Upanishads, and where is the concept of that without the phal, without telling that you will be wealthy, you will be rich, you will get your love. That concept is missing in the Upanishads. I'm just wondering.
No, it is not like that. In the Chandogya Upanishad, in the very first chapter, there is Udgitopasana. Udgita meaning Om. The sound Om is called Udgita. And the Udgita is connected to the rising sun also. And if you practice that Udgitopasana, you will be very healthy, and your mind will be very pure, and